Alright guys, before we begin, we're going to jack the vehicle up and put it up on jack stands. Safety got to be your #1 concern. And as you can see, I got jack stands up under the vehicle. Tires up in the air, you definitely want to do that. And guys, if you're doing this job on dirt or grass, what you want to do is get you a nice 2x10 piece of wood and use that as a base for your jack stands, because if not, your jack stands will go down to the ground. Alright, so we got the car jacked up, and the first thing we're going to do is take off the tires. Your tires are held on by 6 22mm lug nuts. So what we're going to do, let me get me a tool and we'll be right back. Alright, again guys, they're held on by 22mm. I got a 22mm 1/2-inch drive shallow socket with my impact earthquake. Yeah, my Harbor Freight earthquake. And we're going to go in there and take all the lugs off on this tire and the other tire. Get your tires off, put them to the side. Now, as an added security, if you want, take your tires, stick them up under the car, just in case your jack stands fail, especially if you're on dirt, and if the car comes down, the rim will hold it into place. Alright, so let's get these tires off and we'll be right back. Alright guys, the next thing you want to do is here's the cap to your master cylinder. You want to take your cap off. Very, very important. Do this job. Do this before you even attempt to do anything. Then you want to do is take your paper towel. I call this the Timmy towel. Take it and you want to stick it right there. Why you're doing this? Because when we go back in the back to push back the pistons, the brake fluid is going to rise up, and you don't want this brake fluid spilling everywhere, or it can cause a fire. And the reason why I'm using paper towels is because it's so porous, it'll soak that brake fluid up. If you use a rag might act as a cap and mess up the master cylinder. When you go to push it back, it'll mess up the seals inside the master, and then you're not going to have no brakes when you go to finish. Alright, so we're going to stick that in there and we'll be right back. Alright guys, the first thing we're going to do is take off our caliper. Your caliper is held on by 2 14mm bolts. Right there. So what I'm going to use here is a 14mm shallow socket, and I'm going to use my big bill ratchet. Or if you want, use a 3/8 drive ratchet. And what you want to do is go in there. And that's going to be a problem. Alright guys, so we're going to have to get a wrench. I was hoping I wouldn't have to do this, but you see right here, this bolt right here looks like a bolt. This is part of a pin, and as I'm turning this, that's turning, so we're going to have to keep that still. So let me get a wrench and I'll be right back. Alright guys, what you want to get you is a 17mm wrench. You want to hook it onto there and break it loose. Let's go down here to our bottom one. Break that loose. Then come right out, and this one's coming out. So let's take both bolts out, and both bolts are going to be the same length, so you don't have to worry about crossing them up. Alright, so let's get those out and we'll be right back. Alright, we got both bolts out, and just like I said, both bolts are the same length, so you don't have to worry about getting them confused. Next thing to do is just wiggle your caliper till it comes off, just like that. Turn your caliper upside down. Do not let your caliper drop and hang by this hose, or you will damage the hose on the inside. Take your caliper, hang it in just like that. The next thing we're going to do is, this is the piston right here. We need to push that piston back into the caliper. Every time you step on the brakes, brake fluid comes through this hose, into this piston, into the caliper right here. The brake fluid pushes this piston out and pushes your brake pads together to the rotor. So we need to push that back. So what we're going to do is, here's one of our old brake pads. I'm going to just pop that out just like that. And we're going to set it out here. Do not, because what I'm going to do is take a C-clamp, and we're going to take the C-clamp and push that piston back. Do not use this. Even though this may feel like steel or metal, it is not. This piston will crack. So you want to put your brake pad right there. Put your C-clamp over here. Now, in the back, you're going to have this bolt right here that's holding your hose. Try not to use that, because you can squeeze this, and on this side and on this side, there's washers. And they're not actually washers, there's gaskets to stop the brake fluid from coming out. If you use it right here, you take a chance in squeezing those in and damaging them. So what you want to do is take your C-clamp and try to get it up there at the top edge. Put it in. Now, as you're tightening up your C-clamp, watch your piston slowly starts going back. And you want to push that, keep going until that gets flush with the caliper itself. All right, let's push that back and we'll be right back. All right, guys, the next thing we're going to do is take off our caliper bracket. But before we do that, being that we're changing the rotors, your rotor is held on by this little T30 Torx screw right there. So what we're going to do here, now if I go ahead and try to, we're going to use a T30 Torx socket, 1/4 inch drive with a 1/4 inch drive ratchet. And if I go to try to loosen this up now, you see how the whole rotor is turning? So here's a little trick. What you want to do is take your screwdriver, stick it inside one of the vents, because this is a vented rotor, stick it inside there, and the rotor is going to lock right, it's going to lock right up against there. Go over here, and loosen this bolt up, and if it don't do it, you're in some trouble. See, because you got to make sure you get this thing flush. There we go. Okay. And then we can go ahead and take that screw out. So let's take this screw out and we'll be right back. All right, guys, now that we got that out, the next thing we're going to do is in the back of here, we have two 21mm bolts. One right there and up, one right there. Those two bolts right there is holding in the caliper bracket. So what you're going to use is a 21mm shallow socket, 1/2 inch drive. And this part is very important. You want to make sure you get a 1/2 inch drive ratchet. A nice one wants to get some good leverage on it, because those bolts have Loctite on them, and them bolts are really tight going to come out. So let's put this here. And what I'm going to do here, and at this time, guys, because you're going to be really pulling on this, this is why it's very important to make sure that car is up secured. All right, so what I'm going to do is go in here and make sure it stays flush with that. And loosen that up. Let's go to the top one. And loosen that up. And once you get them loose, then you can switch over and a 21mm, or you can use a 13/16. And now I'm gonna get a socket to go up here. Be right back. Okay, I'm using my big bill ratchet because I ain't got time to be sitting here doing my hand. And I'm gonna be using my adapter 3/8 to 1/2 inch. And then I'm gonna take my 21mm, same 21mm 1/2 inch drive socket, and then I'm gonna go in there. Dang it. Sometimes this thing, man. But I guess I gotta get my regular ratchet and take those out. All right, let me get my ratchet, and I'll be right back. All right, guys, what I did was switch over to my Ingersoll Rand air ratchet. Yeah, cordless is good, but nothing better than air. And I'm actually using my 13/16 3/8 drive socket. Now let's go in here. Look at that thing, just taking it off. All right, let's get those two bolts out, and we'll be right back. All right, guys, we got both bolts out, and I'm just gonna leave the bolts hanging right in there. And here's our caliper bracket. Now, this is a good time to make sure these slide pins move back and forth like this, because if they're stuck, then you're in trouble. All right, take them out, clean them up, or get new caliper brackets. Both of them are great. That is great. All right, now let's set this to the side with our brake pads. We're gonna get that set up in a minute. The next thing we're gonna do is take our rotor off. Sometimes you can pop your rotor off. This one does not pop off. So being that we are replacing the rotors, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna get a hammer and hit it right here. Let me see if I got a hammer up there. Yes, I do. Okay, you want to hit it right in this section right here. Don't go up here or below here, or you're going to hit this backing plate and bend it into the rotor. So, don't take much.
Take a little more.
Because the emergency brakes are in here. So you gotta make sure you take that come off evenly. And there we go. And these right here are your emergency brakes. They're gonna be brand new for the rest of this vehicle. You are never, hardly ever gonna use them. All right, so we set that down.
Now, what happens if you are not changing them? Well, I guess if you're not changing the rotor, there's no reason for you to take them out, right?
Exactly, no reason if you, or take what out?
The rotor.
Yeah, if you're not changing it, I would have left the bracket up there and everything.
Right. Okay.
All right, so let's take this over to the back of the truck, and we'll be right back. All right, guys, the next thing we're gonna do is prepare our caliper bracket. Now, your brake pads slide right inside of these grooves right here. All that rust buildup and all, that stops your brake pads from sliding. And if that stops your brake pads from sliding, it will heat up your brakes, heat up your rotors, possibly cause a fire, but it will warp your rotors. Then when you step on the brakes, you're gonna feel like a shaking. So now, you wanna make sure you get you a nice, good brake pad set. You wanna make sure you get a set like this right here. This is silent stop. This is what the professionals use. And it comes with the hardware and everything. Get a brand like that. Because if not, you're not going to have these clips in. You got to take a wire brush and sit here and try to scrape these and clean them up. And half the time, it doesn't even work. So this one comes with new ones. So what you do here is grab two of them out. Here's your old ones. Now you notice how, take a notice of how it's set in there. Like you got this little thing right here that's facing out towards me. So I know my new one's going to go in just like that. So the first thing we'll do is take it, pop it out, pop this one out, set them down, and now you want to take your wire brush and clean up this area right here because you need these things to go flush all the way down. You don't need nothing picking it up. All right, so let's get this wire brushed out, and we'll be right back. All right, we got it nice and clean. Man, that looks good. It looks pretty. All right, next thing you're going to do is take one of your clips. Pay attention to how I'm putting it in. Remember that little opening right there, that little tab? That's going to be facing up, not in, because you can put it in there. You can see. Make sure it's facing out this way. Pop them in. Great. Let's get the other side. Pop that in. And yeah, sometimes it's a little difficult to get in there, but you'll get it. There we go. Make sure both of them in. All right, the next step we're going to do is what's called the 007, which means you want to take, now see this side, this professional one comes with its own lubricant. You want to make sure you put some lubricant on each of the contacts right there where the brake pads slide at. Because if not, the brake pads will get stuck. And again, it'll overheat your brakes. Now, usually, what I would do, I rip it open, take my finger, put on some finger, put right there. And then, a good friend of mine named Len, Mechanic 007, check him out in the comment section below. He said, Tim, that is very unprofessional.
So that's very nasty.
Very nasty. Stop doing that. He said, Tim, go buy you some Q-tips and use the Q-tips and put it in. It looks more professional to the customer instead of you looking like a backyard mechanic. So I said, okay, Len, I'll do that. So what I did now, bought me some Q-tips, and that's what I want you to do, get some Q-tips.
So get some Q-tips, you cheapskate.
And take a Q-tip, and you want to put grease right there where the brake pads are going to slide at. All right, so let's do both other side, and we'll be right back. All right, guys, the next thing we're going to do is get our brand new rotor, and your rotor is going to have a hole right there, opening with the screw in. So you want to make sure you line it up with the going onto the hub. Put it on. Take your screw.
What's the other hole for?
I'll let you know in 1 second. Just get that in there like that. And we can leave it just like that. Now, this other hole, what this hole is used for is to adjust your emergency brakes. But there should be a boot here. But the boot is not here because it's on the old rotor, so I got to go get it. But I'll get that in a minute. The next thing we're going to do is grab our prepared caliper bracket. And here's the mounting holes right here. So we want to make sure we put that on over the rotor just like that. Reach back here and let's, you want to get those, and you want to start the bolts by hand first. So in that way, it's not being cross-threaded. So get it in, started by a couple threads. That one's by a couple threads. That is great. And now I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna tighten them up with my air ratchet first. Thing will turn. There we go. All right, so let's bring them all the way in, and we'll be right back. All right, guys. Now I want to take my 21mm half-inch drive socket with my half-inch drive ratchet, and then I want to go in there and I want to tighten these up. And when you tighten these up, you want to make sure you tighten it up till it stops, and then go a little bit more till it stops, and then a little bit more. Perfect. All right, now during the break, I went and got the boot, the cover, whatever you want to call it, the plug that goes into here, and that's all this plug does is push right in there into place. All right, now that we got that in there, let's take our T30 socket, 1/4 inch drive with our 1/4 inch drive ratchet, and we're gonna go ahead and tighten this up. And you want to make sure, and there's that problem again. So what we're going to do is take our screwdriver, stick it into there, try to hold this thing, and snug that up. This is not super tight, just snug, and that's it. You see now, see what happened? I must have pushed this forward and it was hitting the backing plate. So you're gonna make sure that backing plate is pushed back. Perfect. All right, the next thing you wanna do is our brake pads. Now in your brake pads, you're gonna notice that you have, notice the indentation this one made right here. So I know this one was out here because this one has a round circle where our piston, caliper piston hit, and that one went on the inside. So we get our new brake pads. And let's start off with the outside, and we notice our wear sensor is on that side. There we go. And you definitely want to get with some with the anti-squeal shim, this shim back here. Wow. If you get some without that, you can definitely cause a squeal, even though you'll have new brakes. All right. So what you want to do is one sets in this groove down here, and the other one sets in this groove up here. So you want to just set that one down like that, and you might have to pick up on that just a little bit and set that one in just like that. Then you get one to match the inside. Here we go. And that one is going to go on the inside. It takes a little time. Just take your time and put those in there. Great, there it is. It's perfect. Okay, and we'll be right back. All right, guys, last but not least, you're going to take your caliper, bring your caliper down. Now remember, make sure, see your hose right here? Make sure you're not putting it on and try to stretch it and that hose is twisted. You're going to damage something. Make sure there's no tension on anything. Bring it down over the new brakes, and see it won't go down right here. So what you gotta do is just push that in, push the slider in, and push it on the bottom. Make sure they're in there. Take your bolts, take a bolt, and you want to start it off by a couple threads, just so you know it ain't cross-threaded. The top and the bottom. Great. Now we're gonna get our 14mm. Where the heck is it? There it is. On our big bill. And just Bring that until it stops. And bring that into a stop. And you notice I can tighten these up without even have to hold that. But sometimes you might have to hold that. So you just get your 17mm wrench, put it in there, and to tighten these up, you just go down until it stops, and then just a little bit more to make sure it's tight. All right, let's get the bottom one done, and we'll be right back. All right, guys, we're on the driver's side now. Now, from learning from the other side, we know we're going to need a 17mm wrench to sit here and hold that in place while we get our 14mm shallow 3/8 drive with a big bill ratchet. And we'll go to the top bolt first and do that.
Drop your socket.
Drop everything. Let's see that way. Okay. Then go to the bottom one. Hold that in place. And get that one loose. Alright, now let's get both of those bolts out and we'll be right back. Alright, we got both bolts out. Let's set them down to the side. Pop our caliper out. Turn our caliper upside down just like this. And just like we did on the other side, take one of our brake pads. Now you see this, guys, right here? See how I'm having a hard time pulling this out? That's because all that rust and dirt builds up on those sliders, and these sliders are rusty. So it would definitely warp that rotor. That's why you definitely want to try to get a brake pad set with new hardware in it. All right, so we're going to pull that out like that. Put it up against there. Get our C-clamp and push that back. So let's do that. And remember, we're going to push it back till it goes all the way flat. All right, so let's get that done and we'll be right back. All right, guys, we got that piston pushed all the way back. Leave our caliper right there. The next thing you're going to do is grab your 21mm 1/2" drive with your long 1/2" drive ratchet. And you got your two 21mm bolts in here that's holding on the caliper bracket. And remember, these things are a little tight. That's all we're going to do. Just loosen them up, and then we'll use our air gun, our air ratchet, to finish taking them out. All right, great. All right, let's get our air ratchet and finish taking those out. We'll be right back. All right, guys, we got both our bolts out, and I'm going to leave them into the spindle. Let's set this down, and now we get our T30 Torx socket, 1/4" drive with our 1/4" drive ratchet. And what I'm going to try to do here is hold this rotor. And see, that's what, I don't know, why didn't I just, I don't know, guys, I don't know, why didn't I just do this when I had the caliper there and put a screwdriver there? I have no idea, man. What the heck is wrong with me? Now I gotta sit here and fight with this thing. Because this thing, wait a minute. Damn, this thing, this cheesy Duralast thing, man.
Yeah, buddy.
You funny. There we go. I don't know why the heck I got this thing, man. Why am I using an extension anyway? Alright, so let's get this screw out and we'll be right back.
And get your boot out.
Huh?
Get the little boot out.
You know what? Nah. Get it from the inside.
Fine.
Alright, be right back. Alright, let's get the rotor off, and of course it's stuck. Now on the other side, I hit it from back here. You can also shock it right here. But the reason why I didn't want to tell you that, because somebody might be crazy, and then they hit the studs and mess up. Sometimes you can hit that. Yeah, sometimes. But that didn't work this time. So. Take that off. Turn it upside, turn it around in the back. There's our little boot right there. So we could just push that right out. Okay. And we'll get it set up to the new one. Alright, so let's bring our caliper bracket over to the back of the truck so we can prepare this one as well. Alright, we'll be right back. Alright guys, here we go. Same as the other side. Remember the flap, that little protector goes on the outside. pop that off, and then we're gonna take our wire brush and clean right inside there. So let me clean it up. I'll be right back. All right, we cleaned them up. This is a good time to make sure our sliders work. Perfect, perfect. Let's get our new clips and set our new clips in there. Okay, there's one. And we set the other side in. Okay, now we do the 007. Get our Q-tip. We use the other side now. And we're going to lubricate each of the points. Very, very important. Alright, let's do that. We'll be right back. Alright guys, before we put this on, I want to show you what I mean. Remember when I took the brake pad out and it was like sticking? Now, we got new shims in there. Oops. Should have left well enough alone. Alright, I'm going to take one of our new brake pads and we're going to slide it into place. It's difficult to do it when the car is out like this. To show you. Now, look at this. Look how easy that slides. That's how you want it. Actually, I'm gonna try to leave it in there. Let's get this one in there. Okay. And what I'm going to do is leave them out towards the edge so it gives enough room so the rotor can go in. Usually I don't do this because what happens is these things will fall right out of it when I go to put it on. But it seems to be holding it into place. That's good. Alright, let's bring this over there with our new rotor and get this all together. We'll be right back. Alright, here's our new rotor. The first thing we're going to do, got our plug from the old run. Let's pop that in there. Okay, good. Now we got our screw that's going to hold this rotor into place. And you might be doing these brakes and you might say, wait a minute, I'm missing a screw. It's just that the last person who did the brakes said you don't need it and they threw it out on you. But you really don't need it. So you don't have to worry about it. I just like putting them back. Okay, let's put this rotor on and we're going to make sure it lines up. That hole, that screw hole, lines up with the hole right there on the hub. Go and get our screw and put it in there. You want to start it off by a couple threads. That's just so you don't get it cross-threaded. Okay, and then we're going to go in there and bring that in. I should have got me a damn extension. Alright, let's bring this in. We'll be right back. Alright, the next thing we're going to do is take our caliper bracket with our brake pads on it. And you want to carefully slide it over the rotor. And back onto there. And then you want to reach one hand, you want to go in there, you want to take one of the bolts and slowly screw it in by hand by a couple threads so you don't cross thread it. And then go down here to the bottom one. Do the same thing. Great. And now we can get our air ratchet and bring those bolts in. And again, these are 13/16 or 21 millimeter. Use a 21 millimeter because a 13/16 does seem a little tight. Alright, so let's get those in and we'll be right back. Alright, we got those brought in. Now I'm going to use my 21 millimeter 1/2 inch drive on my big 1/2 inch drive ratchet. And now I go put some pressure on it. And I just go till it stops and then a little bit more. So right there, it stops. And then tighten it up more just like that. The top one again till it stops. And then perfect. Alright, make sure your brake pads are pushed into your rotor. Great. Bring your caliper down. Make sure your pins are pushed in. Top one and the bottom one. Get one of your 14mm bolts. Put it in there. Start it by a couple threads. Perfect. Then the bottom one, do the same thing. Perfect. Then get your big bill with the 14mm 3/8 drive socket on it and tighten it up. And you notice when you tighten it up, the bottom one will stop. Okay. Okay. And that is perfect, guys. If you follow this video so far, I give you a yeah, buddy. All right, now for the important part, guys. We'll be right back. All right, guys, now we're back up in the front. Let's take out our Timmy towel, and you see how, check that out. See how the fluid soaked up into there, but yet no spill out here or anything. That's what you want. Let's put our cap back on. Now, before you go and drive this vehicle, you got to pump up the brakes. And what do I mean by that? Let's go back here to the back. Now remember that piston we pushed back in? Now brake fluid goes through this line. So when you step on the brakes, the brake fluid goes through this line, goes into the caliper, and it pushes that piston back out, squeezes those brake pads up against there. But it's got to travel a lot now because we pushed it way back. So when you go step on the brakes, the brakes going to come, the pads are going to squeeze together, and the brake pedal is going to go right to the floor. And this vehicle is not going to stop, and you're going to seriously hurt somebody. So what you got to do is pump the brake pedal up. Let me show you what that means. Open your door. Now there's your brake pedal. Whoops. Now watch what happens. Good. Watch what happens when I step on the brakes the first time. It's going to go right to the floor. Look at that, right to the floor. You're gonna hurt somebody. So what you gotta do is let it up, and you gotta keep on pumping it. Now, look at it. It stops right there. Now, you're ready to drive. This job is now officially done. We'll be right back. All right, guys, now that you did that, the next thing you gotta do is check your brake fluid. This one's right at the level of max. There's actually a max written right up on top of it. It's right there at the level. If you need brake fluid, make sure you use the brake fluid that calls for the cars. And you can see this cap says .3. Your cap will tell you the brake fluid that you need. Also, I see a big message right here, clean it and all that. Actually, this don't use only, yeah, okay, up here. Use only .3, because there's also .4 and .5 out there. So you definitely don't want to mix the two. I don't know what would happen if you mix them, but I'm not looking to take a chance. But now that's done, it's full, we are complete with this job. Yeah, buddy.